Okay, so you already know some basic Python, right? You can write scripts, you can manipulate data, maybe you've even built a fun little terminal game or two. But how do you actually bridge the gap between running a local Python script on your laptop and building a complete database-driven website? You know, the kind with user accounts, dynamic pages, and a full admin panel? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack exactly how you take those Python skills of yours and bring them straight to the web. Think about what actually goes into making a modern website tick. You have to route web addresses, process incoming user requests, securely connect to a database, protect user passwords. The list goes on, right? If you had to build all of those complex web features completely from scratch using nothing but raw Python, honestly, it would literally take you months before you even started working on your actual idea. Building all that underlying plumbing yourself is just a massive undertaking. But thankfully, there is an ultimate relief to this problem. Before we define the specific tool we're going to use, let's just anchor ourselves with a core workflow. Imagine someone types a web address into their browser. That request needs to be caught by a URL routing system. Then a view processes the logic, a model talks to the database to get the right information, a template generates the visual HTML page, and finally, a response is sent right back to the user. This entire, highly organized process is exactly what we need to automate. And this is where our main topic for today completely changes the game. Enter Django. Django is a high-level, free, and open-source Python web framework. It was specifically designed from the ground up to encourage rapid development and really clean, pragmatic design. And it's honestly amazing when you realize just how much heavy lifting Django handles for you. You can think of it like a ready-made toolkit for building websites. Instead of creating every single foundational web feature from scratch yourself, Django hands you the common tools, allowing you to completely bypass the boring, repetitive setup and focus entirely on what makes your specific application unique. So the whole thing really boils down to this super simple equation. Django basically acts as the scaffolding for Python. Python is still your core programming language, but Django provides the structural foundation and all those handy web tools. Then, your custom code just steps in to add the specific features for your unique project. They work together in perfect harmony. Now, you might be wondering, why do so many professional developers choose this exact path? Well, first off, rapid development. Because it handles all that background work we talked about, you can build dynamic, database-driven web applications incredibly fast. We're talking about saving literally weeks of setup time. It also comes packed with built-in security features designed specifically to keep us from making common beginner mistakes like accidentally leaving passwords vulnerable right out of the box. Add in reusable components, really robust database support, built-in user authentication, and the fact that it's highly scalable, and you've basically got an absolute powerhouse of a framework right at your fingertips. Let's unpack that toolkit a little bit more, shall we? What can Django actually do out of the box? According to the official documentation, these are the core capabilities you'll be mastering. URL routing, which connects a web address to your code. Views, which act as the brain to process requests. Templates, to dynamically build your beautiful HTML pages. Models and the ORM, which let you comfortably work with databases using just plain old Python. Plus, it handles forms, manages logins and permissions, and incredibly, it gives you a fully functional admin interface from day one. It's the whole shebang. Let's revisit our workflow really quickly just to see how all these pieces fit together in real time. When a user visits a page, the URL router steps in and directs them. Then the view acts as the brain, processing that request. Maybe it asks the model for some database info, merges whatever data it gets with an HTML template, and boom, it sends it right back to the browser. This continuous loop, that is the heartbeat of every single Django application you will ever build. Okay, so how do we actually get started? It's remarkably straightforward. Using Python standard package installer pip, you just install Django. Then you use a special command called Django admin to start your project. You navigate into your brand new folder and run the development server using a file called manage.py. Honestly, running just a few terminal commands feels a bit like waving a magic wand to unpack a fully functional web server. That development server instantly lets you test your app locally and safely, right there on your own computer. Once everything is set up, your application logic starts doing its thing. When a request comes in from a browser, your Python function processes it and figures out exactly what to say back. There's absolutely no complex server configuration needed here, just a clean, perfectly readable thought process that sends a friendly hello right back to the user's screen. It really is that clean. Now, I want to pause here because we need to clear up a massive beginner confusion. Seriously, everyone gets tripped up by this. the difference between a project and an app. In the Django world, a project contains the overall configuration for your entire website. An app, on the other hand, is just a focused, reusable component that handles one particular feature, like a blog, a product catalog, or a user forum. Just remember, the project is the whole website, and an app is just one modular feature living inside it. Because Django really wants you to keep your code beautifully organized and modular, creating one of these reusable apps is incredibly simple. You just use your manage.py tool and type a simple command like start app. Instantly, Django spins up a brand new folder containing all the foundational files you need for that specific feature. In fact, the official Getting Started guide heavily recommends this exact flow. Install Django, create a project, and then immediately create your first dedicated application component. When you run that start app command, Django generates a highly organized file structure for you automatically. The crucial files you'll be working with are models.py, which is where you carefully design your database, views.py, which holds your application logic and acts as the brain, admin.py, where you register your app so it shows up in that awesome built-in admin interface, and urls.py, which handles routing incoming requests. Django neatly organizes everything so you always know exactly where to look when you need to change something. Let's look a bit closer at how URL routing works. Think of it like a really friendly switchboard operator. When a browser request comes in, Django reads the URL path. If the user just goes to the empty root address, your home page essentially, the switchboard connects them to the home view function. If they type /blog, the switchboard seamlessly routes them over to the post list function instead. It directly connects the exact web address requested to the exact right piece of Python logic. You can kind of think of this routing system like hitting a bullseye. When someone visits a specific path, Django switchboard makes sure the request shoots straight to the Python function meant to handle it. It's a really pragmatic design choice, and it keeps your routing incredibly easy to read, super easy to understand, and safe to update as your web project inevitably grows larger. Okay, so once the URL hits the target, the view takes over as a sort of funnel. Instead of just returning plain, boring text, the view function grabs the user's request, takes whatever dynamic data blocks it needs, and literally pours them directly into the visual structure of your HTML template. It beautifully merges your backend Python logic with your front-end visual design, sending a completely dynamic web page right back to the user. Now, we know most real-world web applications need to securely store data, right? And this brings us to one of my absolute favorite features in Django, the Object Relational Mapper, or the ORM. Instead of forcing you to write raw, confusing SQL database queries, Django acts as your friendly translator. You simply describe your database structure using vocabulary you already know, plain old Python, and the framework safely speaks to the database for you behind the scenes. So how does a Python concept actually become a real database table? Through a magical little workflow called migrations. You write your Python model, Django automatically creates a migration file, and then Django applies that migration to build the actual database table for you. From there, you can save records, pull them out, and display them on your web page. Migrations perfectly and seamlessly connect your Python code directly to your database structure. It's brilliant. Because of all these robust tools, the ORM acting as your translator, the built-in admin panel where you can effortlessly manage your data, the incredibly tight security features, Django is used for some seriously heavy-duty real-world applications. You aren't just limited to basic hobby sites here. We're talking complex content management systems, sprawling e-commerce platforms, detailed user dashboards, custom APIs, and massive internal business tools. If you're building something data-driven and want the common tools ready to go, Django is absolutely the way to do it. Now, as your mentor here, I have to give you a quick warning about a few common pitfalls. Watch out for confusing projects and apps. Remember, projects are the whole site, apps are the pieces. Keep an eye out for simple URL routing errors or template typos. But the absolute most common mistake, oh man, creating a beautiful new app and completely forgetting to register it in your installed app settings. Trust me, every single developer forgets to update installed apps at least once. It's literally a rite of passage. And please, for sure, be very careful to never expose your secret keys publicly. All right, let's do a quick recap to solidify everything we've discovered in this explainer today. Python is your core language, but Django is your expansive toolkit. It logically organizes your code into that neat project and app structure. It relies on a clear workflow where a URL routes to a view, which then seamlessly renders a template. It manages all your complex data painlessly using models and the Python-based ORM. And, of course, it tops it all off with that fully functional built-in admin interface and top-notch security features right out of the box. Which leaves us with the most exciting question of all. You now have a framework that can transform you from someone who just knows basic Python into someone fully capable of building complete, secure, dynamic web applications. You understand the workflow, you know the modular structure, and you've seen the impressive tools at your disposal. So, as you prepare to get your hands dirty and write your first real web app, what will you build with your new Django toolkit? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you in the next one.